صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه الطيبين الطاهرين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لله ملك السماوات والأرض وما فيهن وهو على كل شيء قدير. صدق الله العظيم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد في الأولين، اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد في الآخرين، اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين. My brothers and sisters, my dear children, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, so good to see so many wonderful brothers and sisters that we have known for a very long period of time. As we are reminded that being in the good company of good people is like walking into a perfume store. Whether you buy the perfume or not, you are bound to receive the fragrance. So I'm very extremely happy and honored to be among this wonderful group of brothers and sisters. Also, I want to express my deepest thanks and gratitude to my dear friend and brother, Brother Mehdi Hassan, for accepting our invitation and to be with us this afternoon. And inshallah, certainly he will enlighten all of us with his talk. So the short time that I have today, I would like to divide that into three different segments. Since the topic of this session is empowerment through engagement, what I would like to share with you is the accomplishments of American Muslims, the challenges, and what we can do as a community to find solutions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran reminds us where He says, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. So whosoever does good equal to the weight of an atom or a small ant shall see it. And whosoever does evil equal to the weight of an atom or a small ant shall see it. Our beloved Prophet Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam reminded us when he said, خَيْرُ النَّاسِ أَنْفَعُهُمْ لِلنَّاسِ. The best among you are those who are a source of benefit to others. Now the big question that we have to ask ourselves is that what am I doing to be a source of benefit to others? Is the Prophet ﷺ only talking about Muslims, or is he talking about the larger society, the larger community? My brothers and sisters, we have to acknowledge and we have to realize, if you look back at the history, when the slaves were brought into America, right from the beginning, more than 30% of the slaves were Muslims. Now if you look at American Muslims, the later part of American Muslims who came and migrated over here in the last 50, 60 years, you will find that they migrated from countries that were either under occupation, or they were under colonial rule, or they were ruled by brutal dictators whose names were also Muslims, but their actions were worse that a person could think of. So here we are in this land, in a very democratic, pluralistic society, and for the first time, Muslims had a very unique opportunity to grow and thrive. You can think of all those 55, 57 countries, out of which more than 53 or 54 countries were under these categories of colonialism, dictatorship, or occupation. So we have to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who brought us in this country where we had this unique opportunity to grow and to thrive and to live in a very pluralistic society. Today, words such as Eid, Jummah, Ramadan, Zakat, these are not words from Arabic vocabulary. These are mainstream American words. Alhamdulillah, in the last 50, 60 years, we have grown, we have thrived, we have made good amount of advancement, to an extent that the 6 to 7 million American Muslims every year gives more than $1 billion in charity. More than $1 billion. When there are tornadoes in Dallas, when there are floods in Louisiana, when there are heavy rains in Houston, when there are other natural calamities in the Midwest, you will find Muslim organizations in the forefront responding to these tragedies. These are American Muslims who are contributing towards the growth and advancement of our nation. In this state, in your state, in the state of Ohio, the governor of Ohio is on record to say that if the American Muslim doctors packs up their bags and leave the state of Ohio, this state will be in a serious medical emergency. What does this tell you? That these 80,000 Muslims who are serving as doctors, as nurses, as medical technicians, saving lives every single day in this country, this is the story that needs to be out over there. This is the story that we need to share with our fellow Americans. What's happening is that we are not telling our story and somebody else is telling our story that is not correct, that is not accurate, and does not represent what we all stand for. As Allah reminds us in the Holy Quran where He says, فَخَصُصِ الْقَصَصَ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. So relate the stories, perhaps so that they may reflect. And this is an obligation on all of us, that we have to tell our story. You go to any gathering, any Muslim gathering, 1 out of 6 or 1 out of 7 individuals are engineers. It was Fazlur Rahman Khan, the great engineer, the great architect who gave America the tallest building that we have, the Sears Tower and the Hancock Building. This is a contribution of an American Muslim. And this needs to be shared, this needs to be recognized. There are Muslims who are serving in the police department. New York State alone has close to 2,000 Muslims who are serving in the police department. You have more than 5,000 Muslims who are serving in the US Armed Forces. There are Muslims who are firefighters. There are Muslims who are in media. There are Muslims who are politicians. There are Muslims who are singers, artists, poets, athletes, attorneys, businessmen, you name it, professors, lecturers. These are the individuals that represent our faith. Our faith cannot be represented by people who have this extreme mindset or this extreme ideology that is causing a great amount of harm to all of us. Reverend Jesse Jackson said something very profound. He said, America is not like a blanket, one piece of unbroken cloth. America is like a quilt, many patches, many pieces, many colors, many sizes, all woven together by a common thread. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us in the Holy Quran when He says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ, I have honored the children of Adam. And with this honor comes an immense amount of responsibility, and there is no other better time to recognize this and understand this and to follow this at this particular juncture that we are in today. Once someone went to Imam Hassan, the other grandson of the Prophet ﷺ, and asked him for advice. So he said something very profound. He said, 2 things, remember. Do what you do best and do what people need the most. And this is the role of every single individual, family, organization, masajids, institutions, schools. This is what they should strive for every single day. I had the good fortune to advise this administration, interacted with the president and many staff members of this administration. I also accompanied the president to the Islamic Society of Baltimore, where he said something very important. And he said at a time when Islamophobia was gaining ground. He said, in this great nation of ours, at the Islamic Society of Baltimore, he said, in this great nation of ours, you are not Muslim or an American. You are a Muslim and an American. And this is something that we have to remind ourselves, and we have to remind our children that here is a nation that understands and realizes who you are, what you believe in, what you stand for. And it's not coming from any ordinary individual, it's coming from the commander-in-chief. Yes, there are many things that we can criticize this administration for. Yes, they have made certain blunders, they have taken some wrong decisions, and since we live in this free society, we have the right to criticize them. But at the same time, I can tell you, with my interaction with this current administration, this was the most Muslim-friendly administration that we ever had. The most. There are many things that we can criticize. Nobody is an angel. They are politicians. It's a government. We can criticize them for many things. We can criticize them for the drone attacks. We can criticize them for their lack of action in what's happening in Syria that has resulted in hundreds and thousands of lives. It is a humanitarian catastrophe. And the administration did not do because they came on a poll promise that we will not make these strikes. They didn't do what Clinton did for Bosnia. So yes, we can criticize them for many other things. But we have to also acknowledge that this administration has been very consistent when it comes to the issues of Muslims. I'll tell you a simple incident. Last year, not this year, last year when I was there in the iftar, it is a tradition that the president invites only 120 people. Most of them are diplomats, and then there are some active Muslim leaders. So they have this iftar at the White House, in the west wing of the White House, 120 people. After the salah and the iftar in the White House, the president walks in, they have the dinner, and then the president gives his 10-minute speech, and then he goes to the 12 tables, he shakes hands, and then he takes a group picture. So when he came to our table, we have this young sister. Now she's ending her term, so I can take her name and share this with you. A young sister by the name of Romana Ahmed, who is the assistant to the Deputy National Security Advisor, Ben Rhodes, and she was there. So while the president came to our table, she stood up and she said, "Mr. President, my boss, who is the Deputy National Security Advisor, Ben Rhodes," she said, "in solidarity, Ben fasted with me today." So the president looked at him and he said, "Is that right?" So Ben Rhodes said, "Yes, Mr. President." Then he said, "Are you telling me that you didn't eat and drink all day?" He said, "Yes, Mr. President." Then he said, "How about smoking?" Because he regularly smokes. So he said, "Mr. President, I couldn't stay away from smoking." So he said, "Your fast is not complete, fast again tomorrow." So I told Imam Majid that we have a president who not only understands the topic of fasting, but he also, alhamdulillah, understands the fiqh of fasting. So what else can be asked for? So here are some positive things. Of course, the interfaith work that Islam was able to establish, bringing 33 different denominations, 33 different faith-based groups coming together and establishing this shoulder-to-shoulder campaign that is standing up for the American Muslim rights, to uphold the American values and to fight Islamophobia and to fight the hate speech and to fight the bigotry. And these are individuals who are traveling all over the country and speaking on our behalf. So my dear brothers and sisters, these are opportunities, and if we look back at last few years, especially in last a decade or so, we were able to make immense amount of, we were able to build immense amount of bridges, and we were able to break many barriers. And as a result, many times when we have these hate speech from extreme right-wing evangelists, when they attack Quran, when they attack the religion of Islam, when they try to use unpleasant words for the Prophet ﷺ, it is our friends from the National Council of Churches that represents more than 50 million Christians in America, our friends from the Council of Catholic Bishops that represents almost 8 million Catholics in the country, our friends from the Union of Reform Judaism, they have been standing up to talk and speak about our rights. My dear brothers and sisters, those individuals who say that Islam is a new phenomenon in this country, they forget that Thomas Jefferson bought the first copy of the Quran, the translation which is in 2 volumes, which is preserved in the Library of Congress, and every year during the iftar time they bring it to the White House, and he purchased this book in the year 1765. This is how whole Islam has been in this country. So all those individuals who tells you that Islam is a new phenomena, they are completely factually wrong. So alhamdulillah, we can talk a lot about the accomplishments that American Muslims have made and they continue to offer towards our society. Now we have to also understand that since our opportunities and accomplishments are unique, our challenges are also very unique. So you have these groups, Middle East Forum, American Islamic Forum for Democracy, Counterterrorism Security Education, Jihad Watch. These are the groups that are out over there making millions of dollars. The good news is that almost $180 million is tracked, but we don't know how much is the individual contribution. These individuals, through institutions such as Donors Capital Fund, Scapi Foundation, Allen and Hope Winters Family Foundation, are pumping in millions of dollars to stop the growth and advancement of American Muslims. They have just one single agenda: to spread fear, to create fear psychosis, and paint every single Muslim, every single organization with a dark brush. And they want to be that hurdle, and they are hindering the growth of the American Muslims. And this is not a myth. Islamophobia is not a phobia, it's a reality. And we as ordinary American Muslims are paying the price for it. You have an entire gang. I don't use the word group, but there is an entire gang. They have ringleaders. Just like how mafia have ringleaders, they have ringleaders. People like Frank Gaffney, Daniel Pipes, Steve Emerson, Robert Spencer, David Yerushalmi. All these individuals are the ringleaders. And unfortunately, you might see some faces now very, very prominent in the administration. And then they have their activists, people like Ayaan Hirsi Ali, Bridget Gabriel, Pamela Geller, who was notorious to do this prophet cartoon drawing day in different parts of the country. They are endorsed and supported by a certain group of evangelists, people such as Pat Robertson, Ralph Reed, John Hagee, Franklin Graham. And then these evangelists has validators, people like Tawfiq Hamid and Walid Ferez, who is the Middle East advisor to the current president-elect, Walid Shoaib, Jusudi Jasser. So this is the network who collaborates with media outlets such as Fox, Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, Sean and Hannity, the National Review, the Christian Broadcasting Network, and they are fully supported by certain politicians such as the former Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann, the current Congressman from Tyler, Louis Goldmott, Peter King from New York, and some others. So they are working hand in hand as a gang, as a group, trying to demonize Muslims. So this challenge is a reality. This challenge is happening, and it is happening in front of our eyes. And this is the challenge we have to acknowledge, and we have to look out for ways to address this challenge. My dear brothers and sisters, there is one thing that I like about Islamophobes. There is only one thing that I really like about Islamophobes. Because when they attack a Muslim, they don't come and pat your shoulder and ask you whether you are a Sunni or a Shia. They don't ask you whether you are a Salafi or a Sufi. They look upon you as one body, as one ummah, as a Muslim. It is sad and it is very unfortunate that it is us Muslims who are dividing ourselves and creating sectarian divides. And we are creating these walls among ourselves and dividing ourselves based on ethnicity, based on language, based on particular school of thoughts. So, from a theological perspective, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَكْرُ وَمَكْرَ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ, and the disbeliever plotted, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala plans too, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best of all those who plot. So, my dear brothers and sisters, here we have a beautiful accomplishment, a beautiful history. And on the other side, we have this challenge, which is a reality, and with this new election results and outcome, it's not going to go anywhere. So what do we do in this scenario? In this scenario, we have to make sure that we reaffirm ourselves. We engage ourselves with our friends from the other faiths. How many Muslims are going out and volunteering? I'm extremely happy and grateful to all those volunteers who are serving in masajids all across the country. But there are events that are run by counties, by cities, at state levels. How many Muslims are participating in those events? How many sisters with hijab, how many brothers with beards, as proud Muslims, are contributing in the mainstream America? The more people are going to know you, the more people are going to see you, they are going to recognize you. Just 2 weeks back, we were there at the White House talking about the American Muslim narrative, and the senior advisor to the president, Valerie Jarrett, she said, people dislike you because people don't know you. And it is a reality. Pew did the research, and they said 30% of Americans who likes you, they like you because in that 30% category, more than 90% are those individuals who interact with Muslims on a regular basis. It is Muslims who are their doctors, their teachers, their professors, their gas station owner, their dry cleaning store owner. So they interact with Muslims. So maybe that is the reason why they have a positive impact. And the 70% who dislike Muslims, they never ever interact with Muslims. So what is this telling you? That the more interaction that we are going to do, the more or the better result that we can bring in. My dear brothers and sisters, not too far away from here in Chicago, in last 1 year, 2,200 incidents of shooting. And Black Lives Matter is a movement. How many Muslims, immigrant Muslims, are part of this effort? How many of them? You can barely think of a single prominent individual who is spearheading and participating in this movement. There are 46.7 million Americans who live below the poverty line. 20% of the American households are food insecure. There are 36 people who die every single day because of drug abuse. 22 veterans commit suicide every single day. Every single day, 22 veterans are committing suicide. These are social problems that exist in our own backyard. What are we doing to address this particular issue? So I sincerely urge you, this is the time. You don't have to get depressed with the outcome of elections. Always someone is going to win and someone is going to lose. Yes, there are certain times when we see a very gloomy picture in front of us, but we have to ensure that we have to present ourselves as proud Americans. We don't have to be apologetic. I am not responsible for what ISIS does, or Al-Qaeda does, or any other lunatic organization does on the surface of this earth. I am responsible for what I stand for. I am responsible for what I do. So this is the time, my dear brothers and sisters, to build bridges, to break barriers, reach out to our friends, reach out to our neighbors. Earlier in the morning, Sister Zahra was saying, we don't even know the neighbor that lives on our right and our left. We don't know their names. We never interact with them. How do you expect them to basically like us? So we have this real challenge, and I hope that this outcome of this election is a wake-up call for us. Let's recommit ourselves. Let's do things where people will recognize that this man, this woman is having a positive impact on my community, on my neighborhood, and in my area. And there are many opportunities, and inshallah, because of the restriction of time, I cannot basically go any further, but I sincerely urge you that get involved, try to basically take a position, and try to do whatever you can to the betterment of the society, and inshallah together as a community we will inshallah overcome this challenge. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you, and inshallah just like you, I am very excited and looking forward to hear my very dear friend and beloved brother, Brother Mahdi Hassan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you. Wa jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah khairan, Brother Azhar Azeez, for your insightful discussion. Now, without any further delay, it's like showing